guest. She is the third most powerful Republican in the House. Let's just vault her up. She's actually the first most powerful. We all know that. She is Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and she joins us live right now on WGY Mornings. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Doug. Great to be with you.
I almost never would say to you what I'm about to say, Congresswoman, but this is one of those rare times where you're fortunate to be in D.C. and not back here in North Country, because the smoke in the air yesterday up here was just unreal.
You know, I've heard that from my constituents. I'll also tell you it's reached all the way to D.C., so it's hazy in D.C. as well, which is really unbelievable, but I know it's not quite as hazy as it is in upstate New York, but we're hearing from our constituents about it.
I know you do a lot of work with Canada, and you've done a lot over the last 2 years with the border and COVID and all that stuff. This is one of those times where we can blame Canada for this and say, darn you people!
Well, we wish them the very best in being able to address these wildfires, and certainly it shows the proximity we are to Canada, and we know that on a daily basis in our district. But it's certainly, I don't remember anything like this with this level of haze.
Yeah, they had over 300 of them burning. Now I think it's still over 100 that they've got going. It's crazy, but yeah, we got more of it coming today. So that's on our end. Now, on your end, this is your first interview since the debt ceiling deal, and we love that you chose WGY to talk about it. What is your thoughts on that deal?
Well, first of all, I think it's important that the American people know, and they do, that it's the largest deficit reduction in U.S. history, $2.1 trillion. And let's look at where we started. In January of this new Republican majority, President Joe Biden said he was going to refuse to negotiate, that it would be a clean debt ceiling deal, that he would not have a red line, that he has a red line, he would refuse to sit down with Republicans and not even entertain spending cuts and deficit reduction. We work together as House Republicans. And remember, Doug, we only control a slim majority in half of 1/3 of our three branches of government. So, we only have the House. The Democrats have the Senate. We stuck together as House Republicans. We passed our deficit reduction priority, which was historic. No one thought we could do that. That brought Joe Biden to the table. And negotiations are tough. And I credit Speaker Kevin McCarthy for standing up for deficit reduction. He said, look, there's no new taxes, which I, of course, agree with. That's a pledge I made to my constituents. Joe Biden kept demanding he wants this tax increase, that tax increase. We said no. We're only entertaining savings for the American people. We were able to rescind tens of billions of dollars of unspent COVID funds. That's the largest rescission package ever. And then there were important reforms to the energy infrastructure process called the NEPA process that Republicans have been fighting for. So Democrats, they really got no wins out of this. We feel strongly that the $2.1 trillion of savings, that's going to start to bring us on the trajectory towards addressing our debt crisis. It's just the first step, though, Doug. There is a lot of work we need to do to dig out of this historic debt crisis.
Yeah, you've heard the criticism from a lot of hard Republicans, and I'm not one of them, because these deals are never what you want them to be, and I can hear it in your answer that you don't love the deal, but these deals are complicated, they're hard, and what you end up doing is saying, okay, but let's revisit this. Can you give us some sort of assurance, I guess, that next year when we get back at some of these cuts, this is going to look better with time? Because that's the hope, obviously, but is that what you really think?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. It's not even going to be next year, Doug. It's going to be now, because now we work through the appropriations process, and one of the most important aspects of the deal was if the appropriations bills are not passed, all 12 of them, then there are automatic reductions to these federal agencies. So it forces the House and the Senate to do their jobs. The Republican House certainly will. We're going to pass strong appropriations bills, and that's where you can go line by line through these agencies and look for real reductions. That's where you can go after all of the IRS agents in the future that Joe Biden wants to hire. We zeroed that out for this year, but one of the criticisms is, what about in future years? We do that through the appropriations process. You can also have good conservative policy riders on those appropriation bills. So the debt ceiling was, as I said, the first step. And I'll tell you, again, I've been here now for 3 Republican speakers. I've been here under the era of Speaker Pelosi. Out of all the debt ceiling hikes, this is the best deal for Republicans, that $2.1 trillion of savings. But the real action is going to be during the appropriations process, which Congress needs to reassert our role with the power of the purse and really look at the waste and abuse in these agencies.
Yeah, please, they always say get out the scissors when you go line by line. I want you to get out the shears and just start chopping. Cut.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, a child born today, so I think of my son Sam, on the day they're born, they have $95,000 of debt.
Ugh.
And there's no end in sight under, what we've seen from this administration. So we are going to bend that curve, and I believe that's one of the greatest threats we face as a nation, in addition to a rising China, but we have to get our fiscal house in order.
So tomorrow, contempt charges could be coming down against Christopher Wray. We keep being told that the Hunter Biden thing is nothing and it's a shiny object that you guys are waving in front of us. But the actions of some in law enforcement and in the Justice Department keep looking awfully suspicious to me. Like, who's right?
Well, I mean, it's very clear. I have very strong views that the FBI has abused its position, and it's the people in leadership at the FBI. There are a lot of hardworking FBI agents, and I want to highlight the numerous whistleblowers that have come forward to talk about the politicization of the FBI, to say this is wrong. And what's interesting is the media coverage of this whistleblower. I remember not that long ago, and you remember too, Doug, when there was a whistleblower against Trump, it was all the media could talk about. Even this week when I hosted the Republican members' press conference, the media wanted to downplay this whistleblower. Whistleblower claims have to be taken seriously by law, and the mainstream media is doing everything they can to crush this. But the reality is our oversight work, we have found that there are multiple Biden family members, not just Hunter Biden, who have profited illegally off of money laundering from foreign adversaries, including Communist China, while he was vice president. That's serious stuff. That is criminal. So we need to get to the bottom of it. And the fact that the FBI is refusing to turn over documents to the Congress where we have the oversight role, it's a macro issue at, the very national level. But it reminds me very much of the experience we've gone through at a local level where the FBI initially refused to respond to any of the requests regarding the Schoharie limo tragedy. And we had to push and really, basically threaten contempt to get those documents. So he should be held in contempt if they don't turn over the documents. The FBI needs to be reined in, and the rot within the FBI leadership needs to be cleaned out.
And let me just give you a little bit of credit, not a little bit, a lot of bit of credit here. It's not easy to move the FBI, but the fact that you helped get the FBI to go talk to those families, the families may not have liked the conversation, but it never seemed like that conversation was even going to happen, and you helped bring that about, so kudos to you.
It wasn't going to happen, Doug, and let's remember, it took me in an open hearing grilling Chris Wray publicly, raising the issue of the Schoharie limo tragedy, which he seemed to be somewhat not aware of. This was 2 years ago. That triggered their internal investigation. Then they wanted to just brief me. They briefed me. I said, this is unacceptable. You need to brief the families. And we pushed and pushed publicly. And you know why they did that briefing? It's because Chris Wray is going to be in front of me next week again. And they knew that because I do my homework and I represent my district, I was going to grill him again and say it is absolutely unacceptable that you refuse to grill those families. What I am going to talk about with him is their mishandling, which I believe happened in this case, of the classified human informant. While I'm not going to get into the details, this will be a classified briefing, and there needs to be significant reforms to how they handle these human informants.
Amen. And not to make light of the air quality situation here, but we know all too well where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke on what you're talking about, and there is fire there, and you're on it. So good job by you on that. Last one, I can't let you go without talking about this migrant situation. New York City Mayor Eric Adams shipping migrants up to upstate New York and North Country. I'm sure he's going to get some soon, and it's just out of control. The lack of leadership on this from both the governor's office and the president, frankly, is appalling. And it's just chaos in this state, and it's stunning how hypocritical Democrats, sanctuary city Democrats, are being in this whole situation.
Well, as we've always said, Republicans say every state is a border state, every district is a border district, and we're literally seeing that play out. We used to, and we still talk about the increases in fentanyl overdoses. Much of that is coming through the southern border. But now, literally, it's the illegal migrants who are being shipped all over the country. I credit the local and county elected officials who have declared states of emergencies in upstate and North Country counties saying, we don't support this. We are not a sanctuary county or sanctuary cities. And, you know, Eric Adams' latest horrible idea was, people should house them in their private homes. Well, he can start in the mayor's home. He can start in his private properties that he owns. You know, it's questionable whether in New York City or not, but he owns private properties. He should start if he believes that that's the policy. But it is outrageous. It is an abuse of New York taxpayers, and it shows that Joe Biden at the national level continues to stick his head in the sand on these crises that his policies have created. What have House Republicans done? We passed the strongest border bill in history. No one thought we could get it done. We ended catch and release. We increased funding for building of the wall. We increased funding for Border Patrol agents. And we went after the terrible policies, the pro-amnesty policies that Joe Biden has put into place day one under executive action. Now, the Senate were Republicans. They would take it up. They're not going to under Chuck Schumer. But this is coming right home. And, it's not Republicans who are concerned about this. It's, in terms of hardworking people, registered Democrats, registered independents, unaffiliated voters are very concerned about this.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, we never have enough time. Don't be a stranger. Come back soon because, man, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we always love getting your take on it.
Thanks, Doug.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Doing what we need her to do down there. Again, Skahari limo trial is a perfect example in the limo case. She got results, and she's continuing to hold people's feet to the fire. Isn't that what we always want? She did it in that case. Round of applause. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik live right here on WGY Mornings.